Welcome back. We're still keeping our focus on the Lagos State Traffic Laws 2012, and Liboros Oshomah is a legal practitioner. He joins me on Sunrise Daily. One very important question that people are pondering about is that must you take off the shirts of people arrested and parade them in that kind of manner? Is it dehumanizing?
You see, it's sad and unfortunate here that the moment you are alleged to have committed an offense, you're treated like not like a suspect, but as a convict. And so that's why I think our law enforcement agents need to be educated on how to treat suspects. That's why they are called suspects. You're suspecting them. They are alleged to have committed an offense. So you still need to prove the ingredients of this offense. And so you don't begin to treat them in a dehumanizing form because the presumption of innocence is still in their favor. And one would have expected that. Unfortunately, you see, it is the poor that bears the brunt of this treatment. You say, oh, when they are taken into cell, you remove their shirts. Do you do the same thing to some of these rich politicians? Do you melt out the same treatment, if at all you even arrest them? So let's be fair. The fact that you're trying to enforce the law does not mean that the man you are alleging to have committed an offense, already you've convicted them. Otherwise, there'll be no need to even go to court.
Does this go against international best practices?
Yes, it does. It does. No, even forget national best practice. Let's even look at it nationally before we begin to compare to societies that are, I call saner societies. You allege that somebody has committed an offense, and then the law that you're trying to enforce presumes that that person is innocent. It still has all its rights intact. And so that same law says you present that person before, a court of competent jurisdiction. And in presenting that person, sometimes if I was a judge or a magistrate, I wouldn't allow, such. And meanwhile, in some of these courts, if you're coming to give evidence as a witness, the magistrate or the judge will insist that you dress properly. But then an accused person is standing before you in a dehumanized form, and you are not asking question, why are you presenting this person before me in this form? Was this the way you arrested that person? If he was arrested without a shirt, fine.
So for you now, if the judges, for instance, say, or shall I say the magistrate, if the magistrate should say that, okay, for you to bring a suspect before me, let that person be properly dressed.
They do it.
And they do that.
Even witnesses.
So why is that unable to trickle backwards? So that even if they're in the jail cell or in the detention centers, they're still left with their shirts. You
see, for me, that argument of they can use the shirt to harm themselves, it's neither here nor there. It holds no water. Because you go to prisons, you see prisoners wear shirts. They have special uniforms for them. And so if you say that you remove their shirt because they can use it to harm themselves or use it to harm somebody, why do you not allow prisoners in prison to wear shirts? So that argument, that position, it's neither here nor there. And I think they should, look at it holistically and treat, your suspect like a human being. And that's why an American professor once told us that Americans would keep their prisoners in the hostels, our university hostels, where we call university hostels, that is not even fit enough to keep prisoners, not to talk of our prisons and then the police cell. Dehumanizing. And so we should try as much. But unfortunately, even the police, the same policeman, under which condition does he walk in? Go to some of the police stations. It's worse than what you can call a cell. So really, we have a whole lot to do. It's not enough because government wants to enforce laws. You first and foremost look at the benefits. What am I going to make from enforcing this law? It shouldn't be so. It should be about enforcement of law, deterrence. Take, for example, before now, it was the modus operandi of LASMA on the road was very punitive. It took the current governor of Lagos State to say no, like the question Mark asked. You need to focus more on free flow of traffic. Enforcement should be the second leg of it, and not, it shouldn't be about, oh, we want to find a way to arrest people. Situations where you see them, you know, like road safety would do, they go hide themselves in a corner and they're waiting for you to violate the law. Meanwhile, you're a road safety officer. The first step should be how to maintain safety on the road. I'm not looking for corporates.
So for you, there's no collaboration between the traffic agencies, say, as you did talk about the LASMA and the police? Is that what you're saying? What
you see, the kind of collaboration you see, it's not the kind of collaboration that it's expected. Let me give you an instance. It's an offense. It can even lead to deaths to drive against traffic. But also, in looking at these offenses, we also need to look at the efforts government has put in place to ensure that the roads are motorable, the traffic also flows freely. This Lagos Abeokuta Expressway, have you taken, you know, a trip on that road for in the last 1 or 2 weeks, a month? There's massive construction going on there. Agreed, you're trying to enhance, you know, the motorability of those roads. But then also, it does not mean that road users should die on that road because you're trying to enhance, you know, the road. You also need to provide alternatives. That's why what, you know, Sena people do, they first and foremost provide alternative routes, and then tell you that between so and so time, there will be minor traffic on this other route. And so you ensure that you have heavy, you know, control on those routes. Because you know, without control, the human mind, the tendency for the human mind to want to violate the law is very heavy. And so people would have seen all of those signs and control that you put in place before you begin to talk about, oh, we want to arrest. Look at all these signs here. Okay, how many do you see on Nigerian roads?
When we come back, we'll look at the